Hello, hello everyone. Welcome to Unleashed. I'm the host, Scarlett Johnson. This is presented by Moms for Liberty. And today I have a special guest, Ryan Walters. And before I bring him on, I want to play this video. It's an excerpt. It's about 8 or 9 minutes long. You're watching the NEA president, Becky Pringle. She is doing a webinar with this very radical group. It was entitled Eyes on Ice. This was recorded in January, right in the middle of all of the mayhem that was happening in Minneapolis. And before Becky gets on to speak, this person, I forget her name, she kind of looks like a witch. She is talking to a bunch of different organizers and some Democrats in Congress and in the Senate. And their whole goal is disruption of the Trump administration. And right before Becky Pringle, right before this interview, this person announces a detailed plan to basically overthrow the Trump administration, and even expresses a lot of discontent with current Democrats because these are socialist Democrats. These are radical Marxists. They have a plan for revolution, and their goal is a complete upheaval of the United States of America and basically to tear down our Constitution by the year 2033, I believe, or 32. So in that context, let's listen. Again, this is the president of the NEA, the largest public sector union in the United States, and it has a federal charter. So let's listen.
Students, if you know students, recruit them. I'm honored to now introduce President Becky Pringle, president of the National Education Association. Look, there's no way that we're going to be able to stop fascism without organized labor. And Becky is the president of our country's largest labor union. Becky and NEA have been deep in partnership with Sunrise and many other organizations, building student and worker organizing power to make this May Day a huge moment in our fight against the billionaire class, against fascism, and for the world that we deserve. I am honored to pass it to you.
Oh my goodness. Thank you, Aru. Aren't our students incredible? Aren't they incredible? They make me proud to say I taught for 31 years, our middle level students in 8th grade. And we know that our young people have always been and always will be at the center of every movement. And I'm so proud of them, just so proud of them. If a society permits one portion of its citizenry to be menaced or to be destroyed, then very soon, no one in that society is safe. Those words by W.E.B. Du Bois remind me that during these dark times when federal agents can snuff out innocent lives on the streets of Minneapolis and claim self-defense, even as multiple videos stand in stark rebuke, when outrageous and illegal and deadly immoral ICE detentions cause the disappearing of children, including 5-year-old Liam Ramos. As we do the work of building a better world, we must also know that this is that time, that we need to keep each other safe. So on behalf of the education professionals who belong to the NEA, the National Education Association, thank you, Sunrise, for standing on the front lines in Minneapolis and in so many cities across our nation demanding justice in all forms. Know that the NEA will continue to use our vast network, 3 million members, 51 state affiliates, 14,000 locals, members in every congressional district, to advocate and to partner, to take action, to educate, to organize, to mobilize, to litigate, and to elect people who believe in public education and in our Constitution. I am always honored to share a virtual space, virtual or in person, with Representative Khanna, and grateful for all that he is doing to stop ICE violence and overreach, and being steadfastly an ally of educators and our students. So no surprise, NEA is one of this administration's top targets. Dictators always come for educators because we teach the children how to think for themselves, how to question and analyze, to solve wicked problems, and to create community, to appreciate the world's diversity, and to dream and to fight and to make this world a better place. This administration is using ICE to bring fear and trauma into our schools. You heard our students talk about that. It was palpable.
Because you lied to them.
Agents are traveling through neighborhoods, wandering past schools and following school buses. They've even assaulted and detained educators and students on school grounds. Educators are seeing this damage every day. Empty seats and a rising need for counseling and mental health supports. In Minneapolis, where families and children are afraid to leave their houses to go to work or take students to the school bus stop, educators are delivering much needed supplies. And across the country, educators are organizing and standing in solidarity with parents to make sure our students have what they need. That sort of collective action is what is required of us now, right now. As we bear witness to the unimaginable, our government's actively engaging in warfare against the American people. I'm talking about the kind of collective action between students and labor leaders and community leaders and working families that drew more than 75,000 people to Minneapolis last week. I'm talking about last year's May Day actions, the largest ever. And I'm talking about the courage and collective action that will bring us together again, May Day strong, standing in our power, continuing the fight against greedy billionaires and all who seek to line their own pockets by destroying the dreams and dignity of those who call this country home. Together, we will demand that this administration stop scapegoating immigrants just so they can implement cruel and callous policies in our communities. Together, we will call for a country where working people can afford to feed their families, where no one is terrorized. For as long as it takes, we will not cooperate. Knowing what research shows, that when 3.5% of the population engages in sustained strategic escalation, those movements win. So we must continue to build our broad coalition to fight against the undemocratic and inhumane. And we also must fight forward. We have to create that vision of an inclusive and just society that protects our communities, respects our Constitution. We, the people, all of us, deserve that right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. I need you all to stay strong and remember that solidarity, it's a verb. Thank you, Aru.
I love that. Thank you. Thank you so much for joining us. And yeah, your guys' incredible work. I just really, truly believe it's going to take all of us, and you're showing us the way in many ways. With that, it's going to really take all of us, like Becky said, and solidarity is a verb. And if you want to take action right now, we have a form for you to fill out to do that. So if you go to smvmt.org/take-action, there is a form for you to actually do things right now, wherever you are, and work to stop ICE, which is step one in our longer plan to build up to mass non-cooperation that can kick Trump out and win changes to our political system so it actually works for everyday people.
Welcome, Ryan Walters. That's pretty interesting video. I'm wondering, is this, you'd think she's running for president for the Democratic Party nomination. And then at the end, there's this direct call to action, which includes planning student walkouts. Becky Pringle is the president of the NEA, the largest public sector teachers union, largest public sector union in this country. It's shocking that we have all of this evidence that she is a political operative. She's not someone who's interested in teachers or students.
No, I mean, that clip right there really lays it out, doesn't it? I mean, their priorities are how to organize politically, how to damage the Trump administration, Republicans, conservative movements across the country. Again, I think, though, we've got to take the political threat very seriously. They are very organized. I mean, you listen to them. They've got their plans. There's the coordination with the Democrat Party. Here's what we're doing. Here's the resources. Here's what it looks like. Here's how you mobilize and use students to achieve your political goals. Yep. And again, we have seen these ICE protests from the beginning. My organization, Moms for Liberty, we were out there at the very beginning going, these are not these organic protests. Like, we've seen the mailers, we've seen the emails. The NEA has been working to cause this disruption in our school system, to point it back to President Trump, to cause parents to go, wait, are our kids learning today? What's going on? Our kids were outside by the street. Yes. What's happening? They wanted the disruption. They want to target law enforcement. They want to target ICE. They want to cause maximum pain on the American people, to blame President Trump. And again, the biggest victims of all this are the kids that now, I mean, we're here at the end of March. Hey, they should be wrapping up the school year. This should be the end of, hey, where are we? Or did we meet all of our benchmarks? How, have we met the reading level that we should be at the end of the year? But instead, the schools have been turned into a political rally for the Democrat Party.
Yes. And we should note that your prior experience, a lot about this because of your prior role as state superintendent. And so exactly what they should be doing right now, what they should be analyzing, what they've done in the prior year, making sure that kids have met these benchmarks, like you said, and planning ahead for the next year. And instead, there's just this insane political focus. And you can see from Becky Pringle herself that the goal of her organization and her work is very political. It's to take down the Trump administration and to build this world, this inclusive society, this utopia. Never once do you hear her talk about educating children. I just don't hear it. Every time I'm listening to her on a webinar or she's giving a speech in front of the NEA crowd, it's very political. It sort of feels like you're at either some kind of political function or a church revival. And it's so inappropriate.
It's so inappropriate. And it is, it's like the Twilight Zone for me, because, in my role right now, I'm working with over 12,000 teachers from across the country. Their questions are all around, how do we make, what do we do for kids that are behind at this point in reading? What's the best professional development that we should be getting? What training should we be going to over the summer? I'm looking for this resource. I've got kids struggling here. These are our conversations. And then you look over at what the teachers union's talking about. And again, it's the Twilight Zone. It is, hey, how do we engage all of our members to cause this political damage to the Trump administration? How do we mobilize? And again, the timing, I want to say two things on the timing. First of all, obviously, this is about the November elections. Obviously, for them, that's all where what they're putting money into, resources, and their membership mobilization is about the November elections. But I want to I'll make it quick. But here in Oklahoma, we had a great example of how bad it is when they do these things, especially at the end of the school year. We had a big teacher strike several years ago. The teachers union originally was going to wait till May to do it because they said, if we do it earlier than May, kids are getting ready for state testing. We're kind of hitting all of our end of the year benchmarks. This is kind of the period of, if they haven't gotten caught up yet, really trying to boost that learning, really trying to hit these goals. And because then there's going to be decisions made on, do some kids need some summer school help? Do they need to enroll in tutoring programs? And the teachers union ultimately decided, actually, those are all reasons to do it right now, to cause maximum pain, to cause maximum disruption. And so they ended up doing it much earlier in April, or into March, beginning of April, than waiting till May when all of these things would have been more close to completion. So it just shows you they know what they're doing. I mean, they know that right now kids are either on spring break, coming back from spring break. This right now is a make or break time for teachers and kids to go, hey, we've worked all year. Let's see where you're at. Let's make these final adjustments. Let's really press hard to the end of the year. So not only is it political for the November elections, it is absolutely done in a way to cause maximum disruption for parents, kids at the end of a school year where we should be really pressing towards those goals.
Yes, about this, kids are taking their SATs, their ACTs, they're preparing for graduation, making final decisions about college. A lot of things are going on for high school kids. If your kids are in elementary school and about to go to middle school, there's a lot of work being done, middle school to high school. I know right now I am a parent that's dealing with this, and you're trying to meet with teachers and figure out how prepared is my child to go from middle school to high school, from elementary school to middle school. And so causing maximum pain is definitely something that they want to do, especially considering that this is the midpoint of this training. Before Becky Pringle is on, there are several activists who the topic is how to cause maximum pain and how to disrupt the ICE agents in their hotel rooms, how to make people angry enough that they're going to call the Hampton Inn that they're staying at and say, you need to kick ICE out because I can't get any sleep. That was one of their tactics. It was up all night, keep people up all night, to go to private restaurants and disrupt people eating so that they're uncomfortable. They don't want to be there. Their whole mission is to disrupt and make people uncomfortable. Look at what's happening with TSA. The mission is disrupt so that they can get their way, make people upset, angry, irritated, so that just make it stop. And that's just awful on many levels, but particularly when we're talking about our kids, and this is a teachers union. Brian, how do teachers feel about this?
Look, your good teachers are absolutely mortified by this. I spoke to a teacher yesterday that was saying, and again, to your point, I've got kids preparing for an ACT test, that they've got a goal, they've been working towards it. If they hit this number, they can get a scholarship. They're trying to get into this school. So this is their, first or last test they get to take to really show what they've learned, how they've improved. And so, teachers right now, your good teachers are going, what are we doing? This should be the absolute time that we're helping students. And again, don't forget, we've got a lot of students right now that have struggled this year, that teachers are trying to work with parents to make decisions on, does your kid need to repeat the third grade? Do they need to be in an intensive summer school program? Do we need to have them in an aggressive tutoring service to make sure they get caught up for next year? These are the ongoing conversations that should be taking place, that the unions are disrupting in a way that is going to have a real academic impact on our kids. And then you have the teachers, again, the good teachers that are saying, you see the disruptions and you see what they're willing to do. It puts the good teachers in such a terrible position because what do they do? So do they stand up in a faculty meeting and say, hey guys, what are we doing? Why are we trying to organize these things right now? We should be focused on this, because they know what happens next. They become the targets of all of those tactics. They become the targets of the teachers' unions. And again, I so appreciate our good teachers that are standing up saying, no, well, we are going to fight for the kids. We are going to fight for the parents. But you see how good teachers often find themselves in the crosshairs of the teachers' unions. When they speak out, they are dealing with all of those union apparatuses being pointed at them. And so it's a very difficult thing for them to navigate, which is why I so appreciate the Moms for Liberty standing up for good teachers, saying, hey, we want good teachers in the classroom. All of these things. And by the way, think about this. You got young people in college right now. They're looking at, do I want to be a teacher? Do I want to get in the profession? If you're a good person that genuinely wants to help kids, you watch all of this and go, do I really want to sign up to go into a school district that's going to shut down for an ICE protest? Do I really want to sign up to go into a school that's being run by the teachers unions and not by parents and the community and taxpayers? Again, when we talk about, and you hear this a lot in the mainstream media, the teacher shortage, teacher retention, look at what so many of the surveys say of frustration by teachers. So much of it has to do with their administration. So much of it has to do with the way things are being dealt with at school by school leadership. And so much of that is basically a union, for lack of a better word, between the administrators and the teachers unions that come to agreements and say, this is how we're doing things. The union calls the shots. As long as we are in line with the teachers union, that's the power broker here. So it's incredibly disappointing. And this is what we've got to continue to give teachers options like the Teacher Freedom Alliance, connect them with folks like the Moms for Liberty that's going to have their back as they go out and fight for students, and they fight for what's academically and what's just right. I mean, this, it's so funny. This shouldn't be a left or right issue, you would think. Yeah. You would think we'd be able to say, guys, hey, look, if you want to protest or you want to, or you're upset or that's fine. Just, don't use kids. Don't do it during the school day. Don't use school taxpayer resources to do these things. Again, go do that. We can agree, disagree. We can have those discussions and arguments. That's fine. Don't use taxpayer resources. Don't use kids that are there to try to learn to better their lives. And again, you are shirking your responsibility as an educator to do those things. So I think it's a very common sense ask. And again, we've got thousands of teachers all over the country that say, yes, 1,000%, that's what we want to do. But this makes it incredibly difficult for them to do their jobs.
And the NEA has something unique. They have a federal charter. Oh. These federal charters aren't meant for partisan activism. They're meant to serve public good. That public good is education. What are some solutions? I think that they should not have this federal charter, considering that they engage in direct political activism. They are picking a side. They are clearly not supporting President Trump, and 50% or more of this country, they don't support the parents and families that voted for Trump, and they make that really clear. So what are parents supposed to do when they send their kids to public school, knowing that the largest public sector union, this teachers union, is training and encouraging educators in the public school system to view them as the enemy?
No, you make a really great point there. Yeah, there's no reason for them to have a federal charter. They are a political organization. And that's the thing that we've got to be able to make sure that folks are crystal clear on. And so parents watching right now, let other parents know, listen, the teachers union, the reason why they have a federal charter is because Democrats gave that to them, because Democrats understand this is a huge part of our political strategy here to prop up the unions, to use the unions, again, to navigate this back and forth. So it's absolutely a sweetheart deal to take care of an apparatus of the Democrat Party. Yes. And for parents, listen, I would be crystal clear going into a school. Are you in the teachers unions? Ask the teachers, why are you in this union? Are you following the directions of Becky Pringle? Do you agree with these statements? Because I'm here just because I want my kid to have an education. Mm-hmm. Again, your political leanings, if it never engages in the classroom, if you're not taking directions from them, that's fine. But in the classroom, you see they are actually using the classroom time, the students, the resources meant to educate our kids for political purposes, that has to stop. And again, no matter if you're left, right, center, wherever you are, that's a very straightforward ask. Okay, when my kid comes into a math class, let's talk math. Okay, when you're working with my kids, let's talk about whatever the subject matter is. And again, if you're part of an organization that is telling you to do these things during the school day, I mean, do you openly disavow that? You agree to not do those things? Because again, that's the tricky part here is the union has millions of members. They are attending these trainings. They are hearing these things. And I will say this, there are a lot of those union members that go, I'm not doing any of that garbage. I'm here because I'm scared of what happens if I leave. And that's what we try to get in with those teachers. And so parents, I appreciate sharing any of the resources about the Teacher Freedom Alliance to say, but you don't have to. There are organizations out there that say, hey, liability insurance can be covered. You can get your professional development credits. You can attend trainings and have a larger cohort of teachers that you can work with to help develop your craft. But going to the teachers union, you are paying into this, regardless of whether you follow their marching orders or not. You are funding these efforts with your paycheck. And so I think it's just so important, even for the teachers in the teachers union that go, look, I'm never going to do any of those things, but I'm scared to leave. I don't know what the repercussions are. Those are the folks that we want to go, we'll help you through that. We'll help you navigate those things. But you are funding this apparatus that is so detrimental to our education system. And this is what we've seen. We saw it here in Oklahoma, see it in Texas, see it in states like Florida, Tennessee. He instituted incredible education reforms. The union undermines them every step of the way. They try to fight them policy-wise, but then when they're passed, they try to stop the implementation. I mean, we had teachers unions holding up districts. We gave merit pay for teachers up to 6 figures. If you were a high-performing teacher, we literally had the teachers unions stopping districts from entering into the program for 3 years. I mean, they were literally holding the districts hostage going, you can't agree to do merit pay. And we're going, we've allocated the funds. We're ready to go. We want you to make more money if you're doing a great job. But that just shows you they fight the policy, then they fight the implementation of the policy. So even in states that we're seeing great reforms take place, you see the unions constantly fighting the implementation of those programs.
That was in Florida as well. But there's good news out of Florida. I know you posted about it extensively on your social media. So would you like to share? There's really good news that's just come out of Florida.
Incredible news. So the Freedom Foundation did an incredible job of coming in and saying, listen, hey, here's a common sense thought on Florida. If you guys want to be the union recognized by the district, you actually have to have the majority of teachers represented by the union show up for a vote. Just some simple civics concepts there of, if you claim to represent the teachers, you actually have to show us that you represent the teachers. Because what you see oftentimes is, even in districts where most teachers aren't in the union is collectively bargaining for all of them. Mm-hmm. They are the group representing them. So they can come in and they can be a very small percentage of teachers and run the district through this overall national apparatus they have. And so what Florida said is basically put up or shut up. Show us that you actually have the membership of the majority of teachers, actually show up, actually hold votes that are meaningful, show us that that's what the teachers want. And it just shows you, look at the union's reaction. Randy Weingard went out and said they had a big loss in Florida, how terrible this is. It shows you that a lot of what they're doing is bullying, is not actually representing the amount of members they say they do. They don't have the support that they claim that they do. But what they do is they bully, they get you in, they don't let you leave. So now they have this huge apparatus that you've got to go up against. So Florida did an incredible job, common sense legislation. Teachers unions, you're actually going to have to follow some basic civic concepts before you enter into any of these agreements. And the union's telling you all you need to know. They're mortified by it because this is going to crush them.
I thought they loved democracy. Don't they just love democracy? Aren't they always fighting for democracy? Yeah, right. Give me a break. They thwart the Constitution. They thumb their nose at the Supreme Court, at President Trump executive orders, the Department of Education, the Department of Justice, the Office of Civil Rights. They don't respect anything but power. That's all that they care about, the attainment and use of power. And because they are so closely aligned with the Democrat Party, that they are one and the same. I mean, there's no blur line of separation. And it's just shocking that there are still those who see these teachers unions as some sort of public good. They are not. They are not. They are a political apparatus, and teachers need more than that. They are a lot of money is going into these unions, and it's not reaching the teachers, it's not reaching the students, it's not reaching the schools. It's just lining the pockets of power brokers.
Well, and let me ask you, I mean, you did a great job playing the video earlier. So what's the difference between that and attending a meeting of the Democrat Party? I mean, it is the same thing. I mean, if you didn't tell us who was talking and who that was, I would just assume that was the statewide Democrat Party hosting a meeting, and all of their, president and vice president telling you what they're doing. I mean, that is how politicized what the Democrats are doing is with the teachers unions. I mean, really, when you look at what they say, when you look at the emails, when you look at what they're pushing out to their members, it's the Democrat Party. And that's what we try to tell people is if more people and taxpayers recognize that, they would be appalled. And everyone that does see these things, I mean, instantly their reaction is, wait. That is not an organization of educators that are trying to figure out how to boost reading scores, math scores, make sure teachers are getting the trainings they need. That is not at all what we see from the teachers union. It is constant left-wing activism. And again, I can't tell you how crazy it is. I see these clips, then go into a meeting with our teachers, and it is night and day. I mean, it is absolutely night and day difference. I mean, again, the emails, the conversations that we have as we go around the country, training educators, I mean, it is constant. Hey, we want to be better at classroom management. How do we better engage with parents? How do we make sure that parents are in the loop of everything we're doing? We see this new curriculum coming down the pike. Is that actually good? Is it meaningful? Does it actually grow a kid's academic performance? Are we measuring academic performance the right way? I mean, those are the questions that we feel that is what our educators are hungry for, that they're wanting to see to improve their craft, because they understand the large responsibility that they have, which is, I've got this precious child here in front of me. God gave them to their parents. Their parents are excited. They want to see their kids grow into their God-given talents. I've got them for a limited amount of time. So how do I make sure that I'm making the most use of that time? And then you go over and watch these teachers union videos. And it's just wild to see the difference between how they operate and what your good educators are actually asking for, what they want to see in the classroom, what they want to see as assistants. Again, it is solely a political operation over there, and it's the exact opposite of what we need to be seeing in our schools.
I compare that clip of Becky Pringle with the Moms for Liberty CEO, my friend Tina Deskovich, who is in DC right now she is part of Melania Trump's council on AI and education. And she is constantly having conversations, trying to work with anyone, left, right, Republican, Democrat, focused on how can we best serve families, students, and teachers as well. And I compare that she just recently gave a speech, and she was talking about something that we care about, AI and education. How is this going to look? How are we going to protect children? How can we work with teachers? How can we build partnerships? Hey, we've worked for several months building a toolkit, policies. How can I help? How can I be of service? A servant's heart. And then you compare that to Becky Pringle, who is all about, let's get rid of, these are the bad people if you voted for Trump, and we're going to create this new society, and just join us in this political protest. It's so political. And in this upside down world, it is groups like yours and mine that are labeled political and extreme, when we are just working so hard in nonprofits where we make a lot of sacrifices so that we could do good, and so that we can help facilitate change in education. And then the mainstream media still makes Becky Pringle and these union bosses and the nonprofits and NGOs that support them seem like they're doing the Lord's work, and it's just not true. So how do we continue to get this message out and get out of our, sort of our little, echo chamber, and just get this to more and more people and help wake them up and let them know there are alternatives, that that you provide a huge alternative. You don't have to join a teachers union to get the supports you need. We have something, we're offering something to you. All of those necessary, like you said, the professional development hours that you need to do, hey, we can provide those to you, and you can feel good about yourself when you leave, not feel terrible and feel like you're a bad person who has to atone for all of your sins.
And that's such a great point. I mean, it's so funny, every time I talk to Tina, whether it's privately or she's out giving a speech, we see each other on a panel or whatever else. She's talking about how to boost reading scores.
Yes.
She's talking about, again, hey, what's next in education? How do we make sure that we're meeting this AI need in a way that's actually responsible and meaningful for parents and kids?
Yeah.
And
She's a former school board member, so she really cares about these issues.
That's right. And so these are our conversations. This is the work we dive into is, okay, how do we make sure that what we're doing is improving the education system for all kids, for all parents? And then you turn over to what they're saying and what they're doing there in the teachers union. It's crazy to see. And by the way, it does illustrate the big disconnect here. When you talk to parents, you say, how's everything going in your local school? They're not saying, man, I wish there were more ICE protests. We've really got to stick it to these ICE agents. Man, I wish my kids were more involved in the protest on the street. No, they're quickly go to, yeah, my kid's struggling with some math, so we're working on that. Or my kid doesn't know where they're going to go, post-graduation yet. So we're looking at those things. That's what parents are talking about. Mm-hmm. Then you flip over and hear what the unions are training and doing is just so out of line with parents. And that's why what Moms for Liberty is doing is so important, is you're putting at the forefront, is parents want to know, how are we meeting the needs of our kids? What's the future look like in education? So Moms for Liberty has done a great job of laying out that vision of these are some things that we're hearing from parents. These are ways to do it. We're proud to be on that AI task force with you guys to go, hey, what does it look like for our teachers? How do we make sure that teachers are doing this in a responsible way, teaching this in a way that's helpful for kids, but also very meaningful for parents and very transparent? And then I would say
Corey and Tina were on an interview together. Corey DeAngelis and because they were there in person yesterday, and it continues today, this AI summit, and we live streamed it. These are really important conversations, and AI is a really complex topic. There are so many discussions to be had, and we're all, this is a policy. We are all at the same starting point. And teachers are just as confused and concerned as parents and administrators. How do we navigate this new world, and how do we do it where we're respecting parents' rights, we're respecting children as individuals, we're not using them as data sources, data centers, and we're actually properly educating them so that they aren't using these tools in a way where they're essentially cheating. They're not learning, they're just regurgitating whatever prompt, the results of a prompt on ChatGPT. These are big conversations.
And you guys were flagging this, years ago, which is, look, the schools are becoming obsessed with technology, and we don't know why. Why are we sticking every kid in front of an iPad and in front of their cell phone for 6 or 7 hours a day? I mean, Moms for Liberty was one of the first groups going, okay, what are we doing? Why are we doing these things? And so you see from parents a lot of concern around technology in the classroom, a lot of concerns around AI. So look, there's responsible ways to use technology. There's responsible ways to utilize AI. And again, this is a very important conversation going on in the education space. And Moms for Liberty, TFA, we have taken a lead in that to say, look, let's figure out the way to do this in a way that's responsible for our kids, that, look, they're looking for jobs where they're going to utilize technology.
Yeah,
they're going to deal with AI. So we want them to have that knowledge, but at the same time, we know there are sinister forces at play that are trying to collect student data. We see that time and time again. I will tell you, when I was state superintendent, our data systems were constantly being hit by hackers. We constantly had folks that were trying to get that student data and information. So one of the first things we had to do was strengthen our infrastructure of going, hey, look, they are trying to utilize any data point to go get more data points. So you don't want data collection around kids like that individualized fashion. You don't want them to be able to collect information on kids. You want it to be very, very simple, very transparent to parents. You don't want to allow those type of things to happen. And so this is a very meaningful conversation. It's very important. And again, I think that the future of education, we've got to be able to tackle these issues in a responsible way.
Yeah, and the title is Fostering the Future Together, because like Tina said in her interview this morning, it turns out this isn't just about American parents and American teachers. All across the world, parents, teachers, grandparents, the leaders of countries all over the world, we're all collectively concerned. We know the benefits, but there are so many trapdoors. There's so many ways that this could end up expanding the role of government or even big corporations. And I'm just going to kick it old school and say, I don't want my kids to be batteries for the Matrix.
Right.
It's like I want them to have a great education, and I know that they have to understand technology. Heck, they probably already understand a lot of it better than I do, but I don't want them to be so reliant upon it that they lose what it means to, I think, human. There's a lot of studies now about reading and how important it is to read books, and how when reading a book, there's parts of your brain that are activated that do not get activated when you're looking at a screen. The storytelling of just sitting, reading a book, reading a novel, and just this diving into this world, like Lord of the Rings. I remember reading that book in Secret Garden when I was a little girl, and you just get immersed in a world, and it activates parts of your brain, and it does it, especially for children, in ways that cannot be replicated once they're adults. So, and you know this better than me, is there a finite amount of time that we have where we could really do the best work with our children so that they can be lifelong learners?
What you just said there is so profound and important. You're talking to a former history teacher. So not only was I state superintendent, secretary of education, a history guy, we're human beings. We're complex. That's why the storytelling, literature, understanding history, not just a data point, how many people died in World War I. No, these are people just like me and you that have same emotions, that have same desires. And so you learn from them. The only way you learn from them is taking a deep dive into human nature, into understanding different types of people. People think differently, but we all have a similar human experience, and we have emotions, we have desires. God created us all in his own image. There's understanding that comes from studying individuals that came before us, whether it's through history, whether it's through novels that have been written in a profound way. That's why we love classical learning. I think it's fantastic to say early on, get kids reading complete books, get them understanding that the world, human nature, the way that different people are, it helps them understand themselves, helps them navigate complex issues, and causes them to be critical thinkers. Think about it. Why did they do the things that they did? What if they would have done something different? Let's analyze them. Let's try to figure out why these characters are acting the way that they did. You do that early on in a child's experience. I think I've talked to you about it before. There's a great poem by Rudyard Kipling called The Gods of the Copybook Headings, where they say,
one of my favorites.
Yeah, well, they said, look, we used to teach it this way, and then we would go on to more difficult concepts. But if you don't have a baseline of understanding of some of these classic works, an understanding of kind of where our civilization came from, you can't just jump into this stuff. And so, yes, I think it's very crucial. You get kids reading, you get kids, first of all, understanding how to read, then reading complete books, And then as they go on in their experience, of course, they keep reading, but that's when the deeper understanding comes in, because now they've done some analyzing, they've done some critical thinking, they've done some reflection upon these in-depth, complex stories in our history that allow them to really learn and become great citizens, not only prepared for a job, but just great citizens, more rounded people that understand the world around them.
And one thing early on when I started this work, I just didn't understand why the reading lists and the books that were being provided to my children particularly after COVID. It wasn't great beforehand, but after COVID, it took a really dark turn. A lot of the material were very dark, a lot of graphic novels.
Yep.
So even if I didn't like the pornographic nature and the themes of, transgender and all, and frankly, what I would say racist, because they were portraying that if you're white, you are an oppressor, and if you have brown skin like me, I'm oppressed. I'm born oppressed, and America is, a bad idea and it's evil. All of that stuff. Take all of that out. These books, the themes were just dark. The graphic novels. Why would a sophomore be reading a graphic novel that has very little educational content? It's mostly pictures. Why would my sophomore read a picture book? My son, my daughter, perfectly capable of reading a novel. And I just wondered why are they doing this? And then you see Becky Pringle, and that I think there's intentionality behind it, that they don't want to raise good American citizens that love their country. They want to raise radicals that will, at their beck and call, will just go out and disrupt, protest, and they will wreak havoc on society. That's what they want. So that's really disturbing to me.
And it's so sinister. I mean, because to your point, what's really sad about it too is, of course, they are pushing a radical left-wing agenda onto our kids. And what I try to tell people is, guys, curriculum discussions are already incredibly important, incredibly complex. Again, think about how many great works of literature there are out there. You already have to make decisions on which ones you really dive into in the classroom, and you're leaving a lot of great ones out. I used to have students all the time like, I would love to read this one too. And I go, and you should. We only have so much time in class, so we've got to make decisions on which are the ones that we're really going to spend time on. But guys, you can spend the rest of your life reading these books, and you're never going to get through all the best works of literature. So those are already important conversations. You only have a finite time with every kid in every grade. You try to make sure that everything you present to them, everything you're reading is meaningful academically. So think about how bizarre it is that we went from a time of arguing about how much C.S. Lewis do we read? How many of these great works do we read? Were we reading The Great Gatsby? How much Hemingway? We go from a point in time where we're talking about those type of works in a U.S. literature class to how much genderqueer are we going to read? How many graphic novels are we? And I'm going, this is the most bizarre conversation to have academically. We should be talking about what's the great literature here? How much time are we spending with The Grapes of Wrath? How much are we reading of this author, so that kids understand an American experience? And I haven't even mentioned Western civilization. You go back to how much of that you should read. And again, you see how quickly that becomes a daunting task of how much of these great works, how much Thomas Aquinas, how much you read of these things, and to see how far the left has pulled that conversation into graphic novels, genderqueer, flamer. It's such a bizarro world that they live in that they think that should be included in academic literature and not have a discussion over how do we include as many of the great works of literature, great narratives that we can.
As a parent, I would be opposed to graphic novels like the George Washington, the hero. While genderqueer is a horrible book, it's the content, the themes of it are bad. The content is inappropriate for high school because it's bad. It's not good. I don't want my kids to read, very patriotic graphic novels in the classroom either. That can be for fun, that can be like a little like, I've finished reading and doing my actual work. Now I can, pull up a comic book. I want them to read actual great works of literature. And when I was in school, we read All Quiet on the Western Front, The Jungle. These were critiques of American capitalism, of American society, the struggle of immigrants that came to this country. It's not like I went through high school and I had no idea that the Civil War took place and who were the good guys, who were the bad guys. It was very clear to me. It's just that we were taught it in such a way that you could appreciate the American experience and the American experiment while also understanding that there were many flaws and many injustices, but let's celebrate how those injustices were rectified and celebrate the heroes of the civil rights movement. But what's happening now, they're not now the heroes of the civil rights movement, in my opinion, are Jennifer Say, they are Riley Gaines, they are the women fighting for our protection of our spaces. They are the Ellas in Wisconsin, 16-year-old girls going before adults, standing, shaking as they read a speech saying, please don't let boys in my bathroom. Those are now some of the civil rights heroes in America.
That's right. And it was funny, I was at the movie theater with my kids the other day and heard some kids discussing the Odyssey trailer played,
Mm-hmm.
and kids were going, did you know that was a book? And they were having a discussion of, wait, that's a book? What? Well, yeah. And I'm going, all right, well, at least one of them had come across it in their education experience, but the rest of them had no idea. And it just shows you, again, as we've had these, we're fighting to get pornography and this graphic nonsense out of our schools. We've got to win that battle. And then we've got another battle on our hands, which is, are we actually producing well-rounded citizens that understand some of these great works, I was impressed that my kids connected the dots between Lion King and some earlier Shakespeare as well, understanding the connections there, but there are these age-old stories that have stood the test of time, that have really had a tremendous impact on our society, on our civilization. And again, wouldn't it be great if we can get this left-wing nonsense out of schools, and our conversation is around how much Homer are our kids reading in school? How much are we discussing some of these great works that impacted American society? Are they reading Adam Smith when they're talking about early American economics and things like that? That would be a great conversation that we should be having in a robust way. But the left has so hijacked this. So we're going, okay, well, first of all, don't put pornography in front of my kids. First of all, don't put graphic novels in front of my kids in school. And now we are hopefully moving the needle more towards, let's talk about getting great literature in school. Let's talk about creating lifelong learners. Let's talk about getting kids where they're excited about reading, they understand the knowledge that come from it. And again, I appreciate your work. Thanks for having me on. I think it's just a great conversation that we're able to say, listen, we have visions for what education can be because we talk to parents, because you are a parent. Your organization has got parents all over the country that are demanding a better education system. And there is a great vision for what that can be.
And I know you have to go, you are headed off to, are you going to CPAC?
Headed to CPAC. Excited about that.
Great. Before you go though, can you share a big event that is happening this summer, your summit, where I'm sure you're going to be in depth covering these topics like AI, reading, everything that we've discussed today. So why don't you share more details about this upcoming summit?
Absolutely. Thank you for that. And I would ask everybody, go to teacherfreedom.com. We've got information about, we're doing our big Teacher Freedom Summit down in Dallas, July 14th through 16th. Again, it'll be a great event. We will have trainings for teachers, parents, taxpayers, school board members. We're going to be talking about all these topics. We're locking in speakers now. And so it's going to be very, very exciting. But yeah, we're going to tackle, what does good reading programs look like in school? Classroom management. How can you tell that a school culture is being effective? How do we engage with parents? Parents, what questions are there to ask of your teacher? What does teaching American history from primary sources look like? How can we gauge that our kids are understanding American history? All of these type of conversations is going to be wonderful. Talking about the issues the unions have brought to our schools, how you deal with that, how you fight back against that. It's going to be a wonderful conference. We would love for everybody to attend. And again, it's for teachers, parents, taxpayers, school board members, everybody alike. Would love to have you there. We'll have several hundred educators.
I'm going to be there. I'll be there.
I know. I'm about to say, and I know that you'll be there.
With my camera and my equipment and everything. So maybe we could do an interview in person. That would be awesome.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Will be a great time. Love that you'll be there. And again, we invite everybody to come to the summit. It'll be a great time.
Yes, I'm trying to get some teachers I know, some former teachers. So I will put the link in the comments. Please I share this with teachers that you know. Tell them that there is an alternative, and especially the teacher that kind of feels trapped, that's counting down the years until they can hit retirement. I think if they could meet with like-minded teachers, and this will just blow them away, and they might have like a renewed excitement for their profession, knowing that they are not alone.
That's right. I mean, the coalition that's built there, the cohort of other great teachers, the conversations are absolutely incredible when you get these great educators in person with parents, school board members. It's going to be a really great time. And again, a lot of great conversations, a lot of great vision casting, a lot of great strategizing that'll be going on there. So it'll be awesome. So I really appreciate you putting that link out there.
There. Thank you. Thank you so much for coming on. Have a ton of fun at CPAC. I'll be watching. I'll be on vacation with my family, the beaches of Florida, but I'll watch you.
You'll watch from the beach. Watch from
the beach. Yes, I'll be watching from the beach. CPAC is always during my kids' spring break. So someday I'll get there. All right. Thank you, Ryan.
Thank you.
Bye. That was a great conversation with our friend Ryan Walters. The Teacher Freedom Alliance is a fabulous organization that's doing so much good work. Teachers are done being used, and according to the website, over 12,000 teachers have already walked away from union control. That's amazing. This leaked video that I played, a video that I recorded myself when I personally attended this webinar, raises a lot of questions about union leadership and what it really does. What does the NEA stand for? It doesn't stand for educators. It doesn't stand for students. It's certainly not standing for the parents of school children. It is a radical Marxist organization, openly Marxist, openly allies itself with socialist Democrats, the most far left-wing part of the Democrat Party. So their interests, they do not align with the everyday American parent who sends their child to a public school. And I don't think that their interests align with our average teacher that works in a public school. Not even teachers that would call themselves Democrats, which a majority do, let's be honest. However, that doesn't mean that a majority of teachers view their job as political. Maybe more and more educators are looking at their job as one that is political, but that's because what the radical Marxist professors are telling them. So there are lots of moving parts to saving education and returning education to the rightful place of educating our children, teaching them to read, teaching them to write, teaching them math and science, teaching them to be critical thinkers, and preparing them for their place in the world as adults. But one place that we certainly can start, it's not hard, is by removing the federal charter from the NEA. And thankfully, there is legislation that will do that. Now, we need to support it, we need to advocate for it, and we need to fight for it. We also need to make teachers aware of other options, that they don't need to get their professional development through their states. A lot of states have some pretty woke professional development. They don't need to go through their teachers union, because through the Teacher Freedom Alliance, they provide that opportunity. They provide that professional development those hours that are needed to retain their licensure, those are available. There is all sorts of, there's coverage, there's insurance, there's a network, resources, all of the things that these unions claim that they provide to teachers, but do not actually provide. Their money is going towards ICE protests, and it's just going to very radical left-wing political causes. So classrooms, they're a place for learning, not a place for politics and activism and creating signs for the next protest organized by a union teacher. No, that's not why we send our kids to public schools. This talk with Ryan Walters was great as always. And now I think we can understand why more and more educators are leaving these unions, abandoning them, and they are joining an alternative. So teacher freedom is something that we support. Teacher Bill of Rights, oftentimes this is legislation that we actively support in the states where it's introduced, because we want teachers to be safe and we want to work with our teachers. We consider them our partners. And I think that that is a message that we try to get across, but those that oppose us, they want to pigeonhole us. They want to make educators afraid to work with us. They want to make school boards weary when we come and speak at a school board meeting. We're just talking common sense most of the time. So change happens incrementally, and we have to celebrate every win, no matter how small. And frankly, there are some pretty big wins to celebrate lately. So lots of good news. On the AI front, and that's a subject that we talked about a little bit, First Lady Melania Trump's Fostering the Future Together Summit, a global summit, continues. This Fostering the Future Together is a global coalition that has come together to empower children and their education, specifically with the assistance of technology, AI. This initiative was announced by President Trump and First Lady Melania as part of a vision to form a new entity during the 80th United Nations General Assembly in September last year. The White House has stated that the start of the coalition's two-day summit marks the first time in history that the U.S. First Lady is hosting representatives from 45 nations at the White House. And it's so exciting that Moms for Liberty CEO Tina Descovich has a seat at the table in this very important discussion. In fact, she is attending this two-day summit right now. And she was just interviewed on Fox and Friends, and where she said, aptly so, that this isn't a left or right issue. It's not a Democrat or Republican issue. It turns out it's not even just a United States issue. Parents across the world are concerned about technology and the effect that it's having on our children and how it's going to be used in the classroom. And as I said in the interview with Ryan, Moms for Liberty has developed something very unique. We've developed a toolkit on AI, and we have model school board policies, we have model legislation, and we have lots of explainers and resources and links that are available for free, absolutely free on our website. So please look at the links in the comments and go to momsforliberty.org, and all of that is available to you. Again, I will also have links in the comments. So thank you so much for listening. We so appreciate your support. And again, please share this. Share this with a teacher you know, share this with a parent that you know. It's important. You may think that everyone knows who Becky Pringle is. Everyone understands the agenda of the National Education Association. Everyone knows that this summit on AI is happening. No, you'd be surprised how few people are as have their thumb on the pulse of society like you. So please share, and I look forward to talking to you again really soon. Thanks.
Parents, you must always hold the keys to the AI toolbox. AI is already in classrooms across the country. Millions of teachers are using AI in various ways. They use it to grade papers and to streamline their workload. They use it to create individual learning plans for students. And students are already using AI too. They're using it for research in the classroom, and some are using it to create new technology and use it in innovative ways to advance their learning. It's really exciting to see what's happening. Truly, there's also a downside to having AI in the classroom without any guardrails. We hear stories in the news already across the country, and parents are testifying that this is happening.
Parents who say character AI is also pushing dangerous content to kids, and at times acting like a digital predator.
These companies knew exactly what they were doing. They designed chatbots to blur the lines between human and machine.
1 in 5 high school students reported that they or someone they know has had a romantic relationship with AI.
Researchers found the bear openly discussed sexually explicit and dangerous content with kids.
The other problem that we're seeing with AI is it's not always true.
Sometimes AI can tell you what you want to hear, not necessarily what is true.
It's not helpful when students just use it to directly cheat.
Parents have to understand the algorithms that are basically set up to direct our children to look at certain things, feel certain things, and believe certain things. That's the role of a parent, not an algorithm.
We are living in a moment of wonder, and it is our responsibility to prepare children in America.
Moms for Liberty is leading the charge on unifying, educating, and empowering parents to understand AI and how it's impacting our children. We're already doing this by joining the AI and Education Task Force under the leadership of First Lady Melania Trump. I've personally attended 2 meetings at the White House on this. I've spoken to members of the cabinet about the guardrails that need to be put in place to protect our children. Because we understand the importance of empowering you to protect all children, we've created model policy that you can download and take directly to your school board and ask them to adopt. We've created school board speeches that you can change and modify for yourself and use to speak to your school board in a public forum. We've created draft policy for the state level that you can go meet with your state legislators and ask them to sponsor the bill and start moving it through the process so that all the children in your state will be protected.